All right, I have a guest joining me now. Joanna Greenwald is a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor.
Thank you.
Joanna, we've been listening to some of this testimony in the defense case this morning. And I'm curious because it seems like this witness is doing a lot of favors for the prosecution, because while she did say that Christy did ask for a gun to shoot the SOB, which may have been a dog, may have been a reference to her husband, you have Tyler very closely involved, and she's really giving a clear motive for Tyler here, that he wanted to move in with his half-sister, that there may have been something going on there. We already know that she's got a history of abuse by her husband. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what kind of job this witness is doing for the defense.
Actually, I think that I don't agree with you. I think that she did mention that Christy did ask for a gun. And whether or not how it applies in a discussion, that's a question that can be addressed later on and rehabilitated by other witnesses. But she also talks about how Tyler was found in bed with her, potentially, wanted to be with her. Remember, we're talking about a 13-year-old. We're not talking about an adult. So you're laying the foundation. And she also said, by the way, that she was extremely manipulative. So she did say for the defense that she was an extremely manipulative woman. And this was a woman who was her friend that watched the children for her. So I don't agree. She might have said things of what Tyler said, but he only said a few things. He wanted to be with her. That's pretty much it. And that he didn't like Joey. The abuse thing that you brought up, that was planted by Christy. Christy's the one that told her. Did she ever witness it? She never attested that she witnessed abuse happening. She
abuse
said
by Joey.
Correct.
But but also abuse by her own father. That I believe is documented, that she had been abused by her father, which and the connection between Christy and Tyler here is that they share a father.
Correct.
A father whose Tyler's mother forbade him from seeing.
So why don't we talk about the big white elephant in the room, which is sexual abuse and incest. Okay, so if we go to the psyche of people who are abused, this goes against everything generally that is written. This child, Tyler, was prohibited by his own mother from ever seeing his father because he was a predator, a pedophile, and because he abused his half-sister, Christy in this case. Christy, as opposed to protecting any of her younger siblings, this one being her half-sibling, she brought him to the predator herself, delivered him on a plate to a pedophile, a pedophiliac, and say, hey, here's visitation. This is your dad. He really, yeah, here you go. And not just once, several times to keep a relationship. That goes against everything. Why would she deliver him to a pedophiliac? Not only that, she kept a relationship with him, as opposed to running the other way and saying, I don't ever, now that she's an adult, as opposed to a child, and saying, I don't want to ever be with this pedophiliac. He abused me, I've had a rough time, and things like that. And going the other, moving to another state, another country to get rid of this, which a lot of women do when they're abused.
Right,
she kept the relationship.
You're also presuming that she's operating from a logical platform, and this is somebody, she's been abused. He comes from, Tyler may or may not have been abused, we don't know, but the fact that she's delivering him to the father, he clearly said he wanted to have a relationship with her father. And so you don't know necessarily what her motivations are.
But she's 14 years older than he is, and she knows for a fact that he's an abuser because it happened to her. And instead, she delivered him. And you're right, you're talking about if someone's a logical human being. This person also has been abused, so she probably doesn't have the greatest center of what parental love might be. But instead, she delivered a child to someone who is a pedophiliac. Something is wrong there. And the fact that she kept a relationship with him, meaning that, does she continue to have a relationship with him? And you brought up a good point. The fact is, did they even ever investigate her mental health as far as her psychiatric status, as far as being a sexual abuse victim, as well? And more importantly, because we're talking about Tyler here, was he ever evaluated by psychiatrically if she ever abused him? Because it's a cycle. And we generally know that if someone is abused, and that's what they learn what love is, that they usually do it generally to somebody else, because that's how they learn how to express love. And
you know, the fact that's an interesting point, and I want to ask his attorney, because we're going to be interviewing him later on, whether he was evaluated for that, because that would have been an interesting defense strategy, because they talk about how he's been manipulated by her.
Yes.
The big question is, was he manipulated to the point to actually kill with her, or just to lie for her? But clearly the question that she was a manipulator is answered already, and the answer to that is clearly yes.
Yes.
And that she knew how to use her sexuality to get what she wanted, with a series of men. She has children by at least three different men that we know of.
Which is actually goes directly to, if you look at psychiatric books, people who are sexually abused, they either go one way or the other, and either become super hypersexual or not at all. And become either very, very promiscuous or not at all. And she used her sexuality, like you said, to manipulate those around her. And this is very interesting to find out if she used that to manipulate Tyler in this situation, either to be someone who killed or, like people who are abused, they lie for the people who are predators upon them.
Right, and there were a lot of people who have said that she had an unusually close relationship with her younger half-brother. Both sides agree that Christy Fulgham has a long history of lying, cheating, and manipulating. She even got show clearly painting a picture of a very troubled marriage, Joanna, to say the least. You think this clip is helping the defense? I mean, it's definitely showing that Joey and Christy certainly had their problems.
Yes, and I think here I'm looking at it, I wish, like I was right there, that Dr. Spring standing up, because that was a really good clip for the defense, because you have her, Christy, just sitting there. Poor thing, the one who had the affair, who had my baby daddy, we're having to use that language, and visitation, this man who accepts her back. The very important thing from this clip that I think is most important that came out of this, when Montel actually asked her, so why did you go back? She didn't say for love. She didn't say for, she goes, well, I wanted just to have the family together. It is because he has a money train, and she went back, and this person's a predator just like her father. And so she never answered, because I love him, because I wanted to go back. She just said, because I just wanted to go back. And this guy comes off as a saint. This is great for the defense. I didn't want my
does? Well, he is saying, it's not so saintly to say, I'm going to never let her forget it every day of her life. She's never going to live this down.
He didn't, and when we were watching the clip, she said he said it. She said he was the one. She said to Montel that he told me he never let me forget it. Okay, and the truth of the matter is he could forget it because you have visitation that's right in front of you. How many people? And because again, he actually put on a pedestal on this one, because you had we just watched that guest stand up, said you're a better man than I am, because I couldn't live with that. So all day, every day, he's looking like this guy not only allowed the woman to come back pregnant with best friend's child, but kept a home life and was fine with it. So actually, he's looking like a pretty good guy, and she looks like a word I can't say on national television, except someone who's a cheater, and again, we keep using this word, a manipulator.
All right, well, on that thought, we have to take a quick break, but you could take a moment right now to the defendant's uncle there on the stand in the defense portion of this case. Kenny Edmunds is his name. He's a retired law enforcement officer. I'm sensing a little conflict of interest here. First of all, he's really insinuating himself into this case during the investigation portion. Is that kosher?
To put it in the New York way, that is not kosher, only because he knows better. So why don't we just put it out there? There's a cop. He knows better what's going to happen when he brings his brother, who is the father of Christy, the father of Tyler, bringing him down to make a statement. He knows the ramifications of what's going to occur. Did he explain it to his brother, Danny, the father of these children who are alleged to have murdered someone? We don't know that. That wasn't elicited when they were talking or something like that. But generally, that's the reason, by the way, that he didn't question Tyler. Because then that confession would have been, potentially, not that there's privilege directly with the family, with uncle to nephew, if you will, but that doesn't look right. Again, there's an appearance of impropriety. So that's why he did not talk to Tyler. However, bringing his brother down, he knew what he was doing. So that makes it, if we're going to talk about how things look to the juror, this makes it much worse. You have a father. Yes, he's a predator, like I talked about before. We're talking about a pedophiliac. So that's an unnatural relationship. However, you have a father who is making a statement against his daughter going down there. So it makes Christy look bad. I don't know if he said a whole lot about Tyler, because we talked about that the uncle said he didn't talk to Tyler. But you had the father talking about how Christy asked him for a gun. That makes number 3. We're on number 3 of people that she solicited for a gun. And that helps Tyler in this case, is his uncle talking about his sister saying that she was looking for a gun because he brought his father down there.
Well,